President, we work for the government. Are true patriots guided by symbolism such as flag waving and pledges, or by their commitment to personal freedoms? Tonight, summer soldiers and summertime patriots. At this 4th of July, we pause to remember the birth of this great country. It is a story every school child knows. The British government taxed us without representation. It devalued our currency. It sent its soldiers into our homes without legal search warrants. And it punished us for criticizing the British king. The first law enacted by the first U.S. Congress, while we were still subject to the king, was the Declaration of Independence. It's still the law today. It declares that our freedoms come from our humanity, which is a gift from God. They don't come from the government. The British king believed that our freedoms came from him, and he claimed the power to expand them or shrink them as he saw fit. Enough was enough. We fought a revolution. We won the revolution. We wrote a constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It was written to create and to limit the federal government. We know that because the framers famously feared big government. Thus, they added the Bill of Rights to the Constitution. The Bill of Rights is intended to keep the government off our backs by making it unlawful for the government to interfere with our freedoms, our inalienable rights, as Jefferson called them. This is not an academic argument. If the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution mean what they say, then we should be able to rely on our own free choices as we move through life on earth, and not on the commands of the government. George Washington believed that the individual is greater than the state, because the individual has a divinely created immortal soul, and the state is a mere human creation based on force. As creatures of God and as rational thinking beings, we have a right to live and a right to exercise all of our freedoms. One of the quintessentially American freedoms is the right to be left alone, the right to be yourself, the right to be different, the right not to conform. This right was recently played out in Eugene City, Oregon, where the governing body had a heated dust-up last week over a proposed ban on reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of every town council meeting. After repeated arguments about it, a blanket ban was passed, sparking another battle that saw the mayor of the town rescind the ban to allow the pledge to be recited during national holidays. The mayor was quoted as saying this: "If there's one thing the flag stands for, it's that people don't have to be compelled to say the Pledge of Allegiance or anything else." Under the law, the mayor is right. The Pledge of Allegiance was written in 1892 by Francis Bellamy, a socialist who was hired to write the pledge to help sell American flags. It wasn't created out of some noble attempt at national unity or patriotism, but for the commercial activity so despised by today's socialists: earning money. Now here's something they don't teach you in school. The socialist Mr. Bellamy also created a salute to accompany the pledge. But it wasn't the hand over the heart as we have today. The Bellamy salute was an extended arm, and it became very popular in the early 1900s. It was so popular, in fact, that Italian fascists and German National Socialists, we call them Nazis, appropriated it for their own salute. When President Woodrow Wilson insisted that all school children recite the pledge, he led them into doing so using this now justly hated salute. I bet you never saw a picture of him doing that. One can imagine that after World War II, the Bellamy salute that Wilson loved would quickly become very unpopular among American people who were tired of fighting fascism and socialism abroad and preparing to fight it here at home. Samuel Johnson once remarked that patriotism is often the last refuge of a scoundrel. And indeed, many of our leaders today who are really scoundrels and who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution often hide behind the flag-waving celebrations when the call to defend freedom goes up and American liberties are at risk. They often betray their solemn oaths. Just yesterday, for example, President Obama claimed he can start a war on his own in defiance of the Constitution he swore to uphold, just by declaring that dropping bombs and killing people is not a war. How then can politicians who don't respect their own oaths demand that we take an oath to a flag and question the patriotism of those who dare to be different? I believe in God and in the basic decency of all persons. I believe that America has provided the greatest venue for freedom and prosperity that the world has ever known. But if the government can ignore the Declaration of Independence and reject the Constitution, if it can force people to speak when they'd prefer to remain silent, then this great venue for freedom will pass away. On this 4th of July, I pledge my gratitude to the framers who gave us the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and who believed in the primacy of the individual and the inalienability of our personal freedoms. I also pray that today's politicians will soon believe the same.